Remember when I showed the people in Shanghai being dragged away by the police? Mm-hmm. This is one of the first replies. Said, just in case you forgot where you are. And he links to that story about the black supremacist killing a bunch of people. Well, not killing. He didn't kill anyone, did he?
No.
He just shot a bunch of people.
I don't know much about it, but I don't think anyone.
The thing is, he shot a bunch of people. Awful tragedy, disgusting. Everybody condemns it. I don't think anyone's saying, woo, great job.
No, no.
Okay. I condemn it. You condemn it. The whole world condemns it. This guy's like, oh, yeah, well, you think that's bad. So, you know when I said the whole world condemns it, that's actually a lie. Because guess what? The Great Translation Movement strikes again. What we're seeing on the Chinese internet is I
do want to point something out here.
Yeah, go for it.
There was a smear campaign against the Great Translation Movement.
Yes.
By Chinese state media. The Great Translation Movement is a group of Chinese people that are translating the top voted topics on the Chinese internet to gauge public opinion so that people are not, so that Chinese people can't hide behind the language barrier.
Yes.
And that people can actually understand what's being allowed on the Chinese internet. Because most importantly, what you have to understand is that if it's allowed on the Chinese internet, that means the CCP is signed off.
Correct.
On it, right?
Correct.
And there was some insinuation, and this is what I want to point out, is that if the Great Translation Movement had chosen the comments, then it's some random obscure comments, but that's absolutely not the case. And they've recently pointed out these are the top voted comments.
Yes.
We're going to translate the top voted comments that mean that it passed the censorship board.
Yes.
It didn't get censored and it didn't get scrubbed.
Yeah, and there it is. It's at the top.
Yeah, these are top voted.
So anyway, about the black supremacists killing, or shooting, sorry, I should say shooting all the people in the Brooklyn subway. This is what they had to say on the Chinese internet, as you can see up here. Okay, so the article says, on April 12th, around 8:30 a.m. in Brooklyn subway station in New York, a gunman set off smoke bombs in the car. And then these are some of the comments. I'm really shocked. Living in the USA is horrible. Not in the turncoats' eyes, as a reply to this. They see US as heaven. Whoops, sorry, did I say something wrong? With these like smirky faces. A nidus will always ulcerate from the inside. You know. So, you know what that means. Someone's agreed. You're defending the US like defending your own parents' life. Nice, very well. What could lead to a massacre like this? The US government must reflect. But they can never and will never see their mistakes. Okay. So far, there's a little bit of both in there. A bit of, celebration and a little bit of condemning, I suppose you could say. But they're pretty happy that this has happened. Next one we can see here says, a terror attack? No, it's a beautiful scene defined by the US government. It's a beautiful scene. And then someone else, a beautiful scene, so beautiful.
You know why they're saying that,
yeah, because
right?
Megwa.
No.
Why?
Because the beautiful scene is what the American media was saying about the Hong Kong democracy protests.
Right.
So they're parodying that.
Yeah. Now I get it. Yeah. A beautiful scene. Good. Keep it going. The old witch Pelosi, show yourself. The beautiful scene is happening everywhere, but in your own land. Okay, so look, there are worse and there are better comments. But what I'm trying to say here is that there's a celebration going on when there's tragedy in the US. Okay? I'm not seeing a celebration going on about the tragedy in Shanghai right now. I got to tell you that.
Absolutely not.
I've not one person that I've seen is like, wow, this is amazing, this is great.
That would be horrific.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would demonize them. So
this brings us to the Great Translation Movement. I think that they're doing God's work. Absolutely. You should go and follow them on Twitter.
If the Chinese government's not going to correct this behavior, which they've caused, by the way.
Yeah, they've caused
the Chinese government has caused this xenophobia and nationalism to their own benefit.
Yeah.
If they're not going to correct this behavior, which they've created, then people will police it and show the rest of the world how this is what I think the Great Translation Movement does, is show the rest of the world what damage the Chinese government has caused on the Chinese populace.
Yeah, because when you feed people a bunch of propaganda and a bunch of garbage through the news every day, America is the enemy here. The US is the enemy. They want to cause this trouble. They're like, all our problems are actually caused by the US. That's what people are going to be saying online, okay? And they're going to be celebrating when there's tragedy in the US. They're going to be saying nasty things. And you know what? It gets upvoted because it's the popular opinion that's condoned by the government. So the Great Translation Movement, what they do is they go in there and they see, these are the top posts. We're going to translate them. They're not like, let's cherry pick. They were showing all of the posts there in order, okay? They're not like, oh, we just want this, we're going to cut this and take out of context. No, they're just showing the top posts. And it's embarrassing. It is so embarrassing to the CCP because everybody knows that the CCP has full control over the internet and they're allowing those comments to remain. They're allowing those comments to be made because they could stop that. It's not like, it's not freedom of speech in China. That's the thing. No. It's not like in America where you can go online and say like, I hate Trump or I hate Biden or I hate Pelosi or whatever. They suck balls or whatever, and get that upvoted, like this guy blows goats or whatever, that kind of really? Well, I'm just saying you could do that. Yeah, that's a pretty bad one. Anyway, yeah, you could seriously go and do that and you'd see it from all sides, right? But in China, you can't go say like Xi Jinping blows goats because if you say that, you'll get arrested.
Oh, dude, you're never gonna see you again.
Okay, and your comment will be deleted immediately. But you can, you can go in there and say American, America blows goats.
I hate the American dirty monkeys.
Yeah, and you can say like, I hope that American, that all of America dies of the virus. You can say that, and it gets upvoted, and people comment on it, and it's allowed.
It's a product of xenophobic policy from the Chinese government.
Yeah, so it's not like a freedom of speech thing, and it's not about a policing of language thing, because they allow that.
I like that you brought that up. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, it's really important to see that. So CNN picked up on the Great Translation Movement.
Yeah, it's actually a great article.
It was a good article, believe it or not, from CNN of all places.
They do some good stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. It's the first time I've seen that. Anyway.
Really?
No, I'm kidding. But I tend to be skeptical of all mainstream media these days.
Sure.
To be fair, on all sides.
Yeah,
it's good to get a balance. I'm just saying.
Of course.
But CNN, which is, again, a very big news outlet that everybody in the world knows about.
Oh, shit.
Go
anyway. CNN. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, exactly. Just Google it. Chinese News Network or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, just kidding. So anyway, they put out a thing about the Great Translation Movement. I put on my Twitter, I said, even CNN is picking up on the Great Translation Movement. The CCP must be incredibly embarrassed that their homegrown propaganda is being laid bare. I got a reply to that I have to read. It says, this Jason guy said, looks like CNN is complicit again in promoting anti-Asian hate.
You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
So these probably mostly liberal Chinese people in the Great Translation Movement are complicit in promoting anti-Asian hate.
Yeah.
The Chinese people that are translating Chinese people's stuff.
Yes. Well, I mean, I gave him a reply. I said, let me get my reply up here. I mean, this shows you just how well the Chinese government has managed to brainwash people that if anyone says anything bad about the Chinese government, then that means that they are anti-Asian. Because for some reason, the Chinese government now encompasses everything Asian. It's ridiculous, by the way.
That's racist as hell to me.
Yeah.
That is racist AF.
That is.
Because that's actual racism when you say a government represents every Asian person in America, in Japan, in Korea. The CCP, Chinese people speaking out against their own government, domestically in China, is racist against Japanese people.
Yeah. How is that possible?
The logic baffles me, and it's actually infuriating.
It is. So I replied to him, I said, you're not very smart. The Great Translation Movement is a group of Chinese people, both within China and abroad, who risk their lives doing this work out of love for their country, and you call them anti-Asian?
They're patriotic. They're patriots.
Do you know that Chinese people are Asian? Do you know what an Asian is?
Yeah.
Seriously.
And you had to lay it out.
I like that somebody else said, my guy, it is Asians that are leading the movement.
Yeah, no shit.
So again... This really ties into soft power.
Yeah.
And the soft power that China has had over the world to, I suppose, a more liberal base of people has kind of convinced them that if you criticize the Chinese government in any way, shape, or form, you are adding to this anti-Asian hate movement. That's what and so much so that this moron went and called the Great Translation Movement anti-Asian.
I don't like to throw this word around, but that's super racist.
Yeah.
That's very racist. You're belittling Chinese people that are risking their lives so that they can have the same rights that you do. That's you think, and I don't like to gaslight, right? What you think through that statement. If you put a statement back up there.
Yeah,
I'll
bring it back up.
What you think, Jason, is that Chinese people here that are fighting for the same right of speech that you have, because that's what they're doing,
Yes.
they don't deserve that, and they deserve to be stomped on by an authoritarian government and not have that voice, because you think that Chinese people don't deserve a voice, but you are allowed. You as a white person can have that voice. The Chinese people are not allowed that voice. That's anti-Asian.
Yeah.
Do you see what bullshit that is, Jason? I don't know who you are, but that is like, that's the definition of racism.
Yes, Shangang Jiewen.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on from misunderstood dumbass Jason who doesn't know what an Asian person is, and take a look at the China Daily. Now, the China Daily here is talking about the Great Translation Movement. Okay, we're still harping on about these guys, all right? China Daily is an English newspaper, daily newspaper owned by the publicity department of the CCP. Look, it's like one of the biggest outlets. All news coming out of China is the media, the state. You cannot say that anything is a private media in China. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But this is one of their biggest mouthpieces. I'll get us out of here so we can read this. Okay. The voice trap of the Great Translation Movement will be futile and will go bankrupt. That's the headline. Okay? This is on the 11th of April. They said, recently some powers use some power. Okay, hang on. Some power. You see, it's always some weird clandestine powers. It's like
you can't see it.
No, it's some powers. It's going to be it's the CIA and the.
It's always the CIA.
Yeah, it's some foreign powers.
Do you know what the CIA made me do?
What?
They made me eat Captain Crunch this morning. I had no choice. I couldn't see them either.
And they
I
put
just
like
felt it.
they put like radio bugs in your ear.
Yeah, they told me
that
when I
kind of
woke
crap.
up.
Anyway, recently some powers use new ways in the question of anti-China. The so-called Great Translation
Why is it
Movement.
always so called, by the way, for them?
It's actually called the Great Translation
It's not so
Movement.
called.
Yeah.
It is called that.
Yeah, the so-called Great Translation Movement captured the very few Chinese netizens who expressed radical words. The very few my arse. Okay? This is the whole thing. They're trying to say, oh, there's just a couple of radical people. No, it's not like that because in China you can't be radical. Okay? You can't. If you're saying...
You can be radical, like, cool.
Yeah, if you're saying radical things and they're being upvoted and they're allowed on the internet, that means it's completely state-condoned.
Yes.
Okay?
Correct.
Anyway, very few Chinese netizens who express radical words. They aim to demonize China's citizens, strengthen overseas hostility against China. The so-called Great Translation Movement is actually a smearing tactic against China. It will be futile and it will go bankrupt.
You know what this is? Can you leave this behind us?
Yeah, sure.
China Daily. I hate to throw this out there, but I was in the shower, I was thinking about this. The Chinese government, the worst thing that has ever happened to them is the Great Translation Movement. And I'm not talking about like I'm talking about in history of the CCP.
Yeah.
The worst thing that's ever happened is not us. It's not any, like, there's way more high profile people that have given way more grief than we have to the Chinese government. The worst thing that's ever happened is the Great Translation Movement, because it was created, like, this entire xenophobic campaign of the Chinese government was created to make their populace completely sever themselves from the rest of the world.
Yes.
And it had the added benefit of nobody else outside knowing. So they've been able to control the narrative inside of China easy, right? They've created a complete surveillance state.
Yes.
Great firewall blocks everyone off. But they've also been able to control almost every bit of, I would say 99% of information coming out of China.
Yeah.
That's because they don't allow barely any journalists anymore.
Yeah.
No public discourse. They don't incentivize people to have international dialogue.
Sure.
Nobody's allowed to really talk or send a video or communicate with other apps. They blocked all apps, Skype, and anything like that, right? Mm-hmm. They've cut off their people from the rest of the world so that they can take a cherry-picked, they use the word cherry-picked.
Yeah.
They take cherry-picked stuff from their own countries, propaganda campaigns, and they feed that to the rest of the world so that everyone in other countries gets to see a fully whitewashed version of what China actually is.
Yes.
And what the Great Translation Movement has done is completely remove that entire facade.
Yes.
Everyone, like CNN, all these outlets and stuff picking up on this, is going to spread this around, and people will say, holy shit, the actual detriments that an authoritarian state and racist bullshit that they promote and allow is terrifying.
Yeah.
And that mask, so that they can't hide in the background anymore.
Yeah.
has been removed.
Yeah, the bamboo curtain has been lifted.
It's done, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is when China tries to fight back and say, oh, it's CIA, it's like hidden forces or whatever.
Yeah.
Streisand effect.
Papa, can you see me?
That's my message to them.
Yeah, here's the thing, guys. The language barrier has always been a very comforting blanket for the Chinese government, okay? Because let's face it, not that many people can read Chinese abroad, okay? And so they can say whatever they want to the international stage and say whatever they want to their local domestic audience.
Yeah.
And they could be two different things. Look at the whole Russia thing.
Yeah.
They're
Look
like,
at that.
they were like,
Great
oh,
example.
we're totally not supporting Russia. We're totally like not on any side. Meanwhile, all the articles in Chinese on the Chinese media everywhere is like, Russia must teach the younger brother Ukraine a lesson, and we're fully supporting Russia, and
They're brothers forever.
They're brothers, all this kind of shit. So you see, the Great Translation Movement was born out of this whole thing because they were like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
We're going to start, we're seeing all these things about the Chinese netizens saying they want to make slaves out of the Ukrainian women and how they're like, go Russia, Putin's a handsome, amazing man, and like the Ukraine's a piece of shit.
We will overthrow
running
the
dog
evil West.
Yeah, all this stuff.
Burn America, nuke America.
So the Great Translation Movement comes along and says, you know what? This is bullshit.
This is what our government's making people think.
Let's show people what people are saying on the Chinese internet. And they did it.
Yeah.
And the Chinese government's like, holy shit.
It's the worst thing that's ever happened to them.
And
bar none.
You can tell that it made a massive impact because you've got China Daily, you've got the Global Times, you've got Xinhua.
You know what? When China, there's a reason we're Voldemort in China.
Yeah.
The reason the Chinese government has to hire shills and stuff to talk about us because they can't.
Yeah.
They've banned our names on the
Yeah,
Chinese
you can't
internet.
search
You
our
can't-
name.
Go look for us. They've removed every video, every instance, except for like one or two that have slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, because it doesn't have our
they didn't
actual
take our
name in the
names.
titles and stuff, yeah.
They can't actually acknowledge our presence because what that does is, again, they don't want to Streisand that. They don't want
Yeah.
to pop a...
Yeah. Where is that? There we go.
Can you see me?
They don't want to Streisand our name so that people look it up, and then Chinese people say, holy shit, they have a good point, right?
You sure?
What they've done here is it's so damaging and so bad that they have state media acknowledging that
Yes.
it's real. That's rare.
It's
That's
very
how you
rare.
know you've shot a hole through their chest.
Correct. Where they're like, oh, these so-called this and powers, and they...
Whoever's in the Great Translation Movement must be very proud right now because
Yeah.
they've done massive, irreparable damage.
And I like how they're like, we're going to bankrupt them, and they'll be futile. But, they're dealing with a bunch of volunteers here who are doing it out of patriotism.
Right.
You have to understand
I
what's
love
that.
this quote. They self-owned and made over 9,000 copies of Winston and Matt in terms of PR damage. Yeah, it's like a virus.
It is. It really is. No, seriously though, this Great Translation Movement, it's people think they're trolls. They're trolling and doing all this stuff. But you have to understand that the reason why they are like the way they are is they're so disillusioned by their own government.
Yeah.
Okay? They hate it.
Yeah.
They're smart, intelligent people who have been constrained for the longest time and been browbeaten and beaten into submission, and they're tired of it. And they want the rest of the world to see what the Chinese government is really like and what they really are allowing to be said. All this hatred and vitriol that goes on the Chinese internet is being allowed to thrive, and it's being encouraged by the state. And they want to show that. And that's why you have to go and, follow them on Twitter.
You have to give them an equal voice if you believe in humanity and freedom of speech.
Yeah.
This is another angle of the voice. This is another voice.
So go and follow them. It's at, grab Twitter. Twitter is Twitter.
Grab Twitter.
Grab it. Just grab it by the feathers.
Twitter.
Okay. And go to at @TGTM_official and follow them, please. The more followers they have, the better it's going to be. It's like a middle finger to the CCP.
It is, and these dark forces will thrive, and the darkness will prevail.